all, now we are starting our class, and first of all, before going ahead, I have to give you the introduction of our subject. The subject title is 17th century poetry, and 17th century poetry is very rich in English literature, and this century has lot of well-known, renowned poets, and few of those poets we have to study are the part of our syllabus, are the part of our this subject, and mainly we shall discuss those poets. And regarding the names of those poets, one is John Milton, and his artistic work, that is the masterpiece of English literature. Remember this thing, that is with the name of Paradise Lost. That is an epic poem. And what is an epic poem, that which I will discuss after these slides with you in details. And actually this poetry, this piece of this epic poem is written in 12 books, but in our syllabus, in our course, we have the two books. Number one is book 1 and the book 9. After that we have another poet, his name is John Donne, and he is no doubt in English literature, he has his own name, and he is also well known and renowned poet in the history of English literature, no doubt. Both are, and even there are the many others, but these two are at the top of English poetry. Remember this point, especially classical English poetry. And the work of John Donne, in the work of John Donne we have to discuss his different poems. One that are with the title of Love and Divine Poems. These are the two writers, two poets that are the part of our syllabus. And students, remember this thing, it is not easy to start the poets directly and to teach you directly to the discussion of the poet and their poetic works. And remember this thing, for English literature, this is compulsory to have, this is compulsory for the students especially to have the good knowledge of different ages, different periods in which we are dividing the whole literature, so that before discussing John Milton, before discussing John Donne, or before giving their introduction, I will take you back to the history of literature around the world. And in that history, first of all, we shall discuss from where the literature was originated, and from where the literary works started, and how it came from one nation to another nation and then to the English nation. And after that we shall go ahead to the discussion of John Milton, his introduction, his life, then introduction of his work, and after these things we shall move to discuss the original text of Paradise Lost book 1, inshallah. And after that, might be after midterm, we shall start the John Donne. No doubt syllabus is too long, too much, but don't worry, with your cooperation, with your kind cooperation, we have to complete it easily. And up till now, just you have to remember, we have the two poets, I am repeating that point. One is John Milton and the second is John Donne. And John Milton's Paradise Lost book 1 and the book 9 we have to cover. John Donne's Love and Divine Poems we have to cover. So, okay, before going ahead, first of all we have to talk about literary periods that are also known as literary ages. Actually the whole literature in all the languages of the world are divided into different ages for the better understanding. See, the very simple definition of literature, that is, literature is reflection of society. Remember this point, literature is reflection of society, and even it has lot of definitions, but very simple and widely accepted definition is literature is reflection of society, it is mirror of society. And remember this thing, if it is reflection of society or if it is mirror of society, definitely it means this literature and even all literature of the all world nations languages will be directly related to the society, and linked with society means whatever will happen in society, that will be the part of that literature. True literature has to represent what is happening in society, what were the trends of society, what were the norms, customs, interests, trends. Everything will be prescribed will be discussed in the literature. This is the reason literature has always a universal appeal. Literature has always a universal appeal, and why English literature is appreciated, is promoted all over the world. Remember one point, students: English literature has the most universal appeal. If you will compare it with other literatures, remember this point: English literature has the most universal appeal in it. That's why it is appreciated all over the world, and it is taught all over the world. And uh, then I am moving to the slide. How can we define literary periods or the literary ages? Any of you, if you want to share idea, you can raise your hand regarding the literary periods or literary ages. Literary age, even you can say, this is quite simple to say. Okay, no need to explain. I am going ahead. Literary ages are the span of the time for literature that shares intellectual, linguistic, religious, and the artistic influences in the work of literature. That is reflection of society. The same point I have already explained. Actually, whole literature, see, the literature of 14th century, definitely it will mirror the qualities of that particular society. The literature of 16th century will present the events, activities, trends of that particular society. And even when you will read 19th century literature, that will display all the characteristics of 19th century. So this is the reason we divide literature into different ages, so we can study literature better with respect to ages, with respect to different centuries, with respect to different movements. And remember this thing: literature can be divided into different ages, and the name of these ages will be name of these anyways. Literary ages, it has different names. Sometimes its name is with respect to the century, sometimes its name is with respect to the famous writer of that particular time, sometimes its name is with respect to the renowned and popular or the well-known king of that particular time. And sometimes we are naming different ages of literature with respect to the name of different movements that we shall discuss ahead. And important point that we have to note when we shall discuss the history of literature, that is the topic of this lecture, first of all, that we are doing. And there will be different notations that I will use time and again with the name of with the centuries. One is BCE. BCE means, BC stands for before the common or the current era, right? And CE means the common era. Common era means the times of nowadays. Actually, history is divided into two sections. One is before Jesus Christ and one is after Jesus Christ, right? After the birth of Jesus Christ. BCE, CE and AD and BC both have the same meaning. BCE can be replaced with AD and CE can be replaced with BC. That is not a big problem, that is not issue, right? So CE stands for common, okay, it has been. AD stands for Anno Domini. Anno Domini is a Latin word, right? It means year of the Lord. Year of the Lord means that was the year of the Lord. Lord means Jesus Christ's birth. And BC stands for before Christ. Before Christ means before the birth of Jesus Christ. The world history is known as with BC. I have used the both notations, BCE, CE as well as AD and BC, so that you can become familiar with these terms easily. Before discussing the literary periods, literary ages with details, first of all, I will give you the brief introduction of the ages. The first age, remember, when we are discussing these ages, students, are very compulsory for you to understand. Without understanding, appropriate understanding, not understanding, I'm saying, without appropriate understanding of literary ages, you can never understand the literature. Whatever will be the book, whether it is poetry, drama, novel, whatever it is, whatever you will read, whatever you will be discussed, without appropriate understanding of the literature, you will never ever understand the literature and even the writer that we shall study. For example, we have to discuss John Milton and John Donne. We shall, for the better understanding of John Milton and the John Donne, we have to understand the whole literary ages first of all, and then the age of those writers as well as. And after that, we shall go ahead, we shall be able to understand the John Milton and then the John Donne. Remember this point. And the information that will be shared for this in this lecture, this will be very important for you, not for the one subject. Remember this thing, for the whole English literature. Remember, because the writers who are writing in 14th century, 15th century, 19th century, they have references. Remember this point, to this period time and again. Time and again, they are giving reference, illusions, analogies, examples of the ancient times. Right? It is better to discuss the whole literary ages first of all, then you will be very relaxed to understand any writer of English literature and even any writer of the world, because English literature has inspired almost all the literatures of the world. Okay, when we are discussing literary ages, you will see that how literary works like poetry, drama, and other prose are traveling from one nation to another nation. And in 14th century, 15th century, you will see that the other world's literature has been finished and the British literature has been emerging in that particular time. And after that, the whole world is inspired by the British literature that is known as English literature. Remember this point. Actually, this movement in the history of the world, a fully recorded literature is of Greeks. Greeks were the first to introduce the literature and its different types, its different genres in written form in the history of mankind. And remember this thing, the first age is known as classical age. Here I will just discuss name and the years, and after that I will tell you the different writers of these ages one by one. Generally, in classical age, students, listen this point. It starts from 1200 BCE. 1200 BCE means 1200 before the birth of Jesus Christ, and 1200 to BCE to 455 CE. Right? Okay. Now move to the next discussion. Literary ages, first literary age is known as the classical age. Remember this thing, this is not literary age of English language, this is not the British language. At this time there was no British at all, they have no history. This classical age is linked with, remember this point, this linked with Greeks and Romans. It has linked with Greek and the Roman nations, right? And this classical age, its span is 1200 BC to 455 CE. Means it is about 1600, more than 1600. Yes, more than 1600 years is the duration of the classical age, and this age is linked with Greeks and it is linked with the Roman empires. And remember this thing when we are okay. Further detail I will provide next when we shall discuss these ages in detail. And this classical age is divided into 4 different sections, 4 different sub ages. One is known as Homeric or Heroic age. Number 2, classical Greek age. Number 3, classical Roman age, and duration is mentioned in front of them. And the number 4 is patristic age. These are the 4 ages that are the sub ages of the classical age, that was the golden period of Greeks and the Romans. After that, the second age is known as a medieval age. Its duration is 455 CE to 1485 CE. And this age is divided into 2 sub different ages. Number 1, the Old English age, that is also known as Anglo-Saxon age. Number 2, the Middle English age. These are the 2 ages. Further, mainly it should be in your mind, one is the classical age, number 2 is medieval age. And number 3 is Renaissance. The word is Renaissance, and even sometime it is also pronounced as Renaissance, like that. That is the American accent, but the actual word is Renaissance. The third age is Renaissance or Reformation age. Its duration is 1485 to 1660. Remember this thing. This age is linked with English literature. And sorry, medieval age. This one is linked with English literature. And after that, the golden period of English literature is the Renaissance age, and it is also known as Reformation age. And this age is also divided into 5 different sections, 5 different sub ages. Number 1, early Tudor age, that is the name of king. Number 2, Elizabethan age. Number 3, Jacobean age. Number 4, Caroline age. Number 5, Commonwealth or Puritan age. And after this overview, we have to discuss these ages with details, with the name of writers. And here I have highlighted different ages. See, from 1600 to 1700 age. From this one, these 4 different ages I have highlighted with the yellow or the orange color, that you can see easily. Remember this thing, the writers that we have to discuss, they belong to these 4 ages. They belong to these 4 ages. So that's why I have mentioned here. So it should be clear to us. For every writer, it should be in your mind clearly. Whenever someone is taking the name of writer, William Shakespeare, it should be in your mind he belonged to that particular age. It should be in your mind what was the name of his age and what is the time period of that age. Remember this point. When I am talking about John Milton, immediately it should come in your mind. John Milton belongs to Caroline age, belongs to Jacobean age, belongs to Commonwealth age, whatever will be. It should be in your mind. It should be crystal clear to you. Remember this point. These highlighted ages are the main ages that we have to discuss for our 2 poets. One is John Milton and the second is John Donne. Both belong to these ages. If these are the 4 ages, remember this point. And the number 4 is Enlightenment or the New Classical age. In this age is also divided into 3 different sections. One is Restoration age, then Augustan age, and the third is the age of Johnson. These are the 3 ages. And after that, number 5 is Romantic age. Its literature will be taught to you in M English Part 2. Right? Remember this point. This is very rich age as well as. And the number 6 is Victorian age and the 19th century. Duration has been mentioned in front. Number 7 is the modern age. Number 8 is the postmodern age. And students, now I am repeating. The first age we have literary age, that is classical age. Number 2, medieval age. Number 3 is Renaissance age. Number 4 is Enlightenment or New Classical age. Number 5 is Romantic age. Number 6 is Victorian age. Number 7 is modern age. Number 8 is postmodern age. That covers the current time. These are the 8 different ages that I have mentioned with their dates, with their durations. And now I am going ahead to discuss these ages with a little bit details. And there I will clear lot of different things related to the writers. Right? Let's move ahead. Literary ages. See, this is the number 1, the classical age. The classical age, classical period, the first age of literature. This is not the first age of English literature. Remember this one. This is the first age in the history of literature that was related to the Greeks and that is related to the Romans. After that, the whole literary work was stopped there, and there was a shift from Greeks and the Romans to the Britons. And from Britons, there emerged English literature, right? And before discussing, now I am going ahead to discuss these ages with a little details that is necessary for you. See, a classical age, already we have discussed. This is a first age, and this has been divided into 4 different sub ages, you can say. Number 1 is Homeric or heroic age. Remember this one. This was the time that was 1200 to 800 BC, 1200 to 800 BC. And remember this thing, Homer is the first person. Homer is the man who is known all over the world. Almost in all the literatures of the world. Homer was the poet, and he wrote first epic poem of first two epics in the history of world literature. Remember this thing. And when we shall discuss John Milton's epic, there will be lot of references of this poet that is known as Homer. And this is the reason. This is the reason it is compulsory for you to discuss, to understand all the ages of literature, right? And Homer was Greek. He wrote two epic poems. Number one was known as Iliad, and the second is known as Odyssey, right? These are the name of these two epics of Homer, and these two epics are the role model for the all epics in the literature of the world. All the epic poets are following the standards used by Homer's epics. Number one Iliad, and number two is Odyssey. Definitely both are the Greek words. That's why their accent is quite different. This is a chaotic period of the warrior princes, and the time in which Homer was writing, remember this thing, the time was very chaotic. There was no peace in that particular area. That was the time in which there were just the wars and the wars. And remember this thing, these two poems that has been written by, that has been versified by the Greek poet Iliad and Odyssey, both were written in the background of a war. That war is known as Trojan War. What is the name? Trojan War. This name should be in your memory every time. And you will see that when you will discuss drama, whatever it is, William Shakespeare's drama, Christopher Marlowe's drama, that are the part of your syllabus, no doubt. And you will see that, and even when you will read the drama of Sophocles, you will see that there are the lot of references of this particular time period. So that's why it is necessary for us to discuss all the literary ages, so we can understand English literature in a good way, right? And the name of war I have mentioned, did you note it, class?
Yes,
Actually,
sir.
okay, thank you. Homer's both poems were written in the background of Trojan War. I mention here so that it should be clear to you. Trojan War. Yes. And the Hollywood movie on the background in the context of Trojan War is Troy. With the name of Helen, there was movie Helen of Sparta, all are linked with the Trojan War and it different heroes of Trojan War. Anyways, number two, classical Greek age, 800 to 200 BC. In this age, this was the very rich age in the history of Greek literature. This time period has produced many philosophers that are still ruling all over the world in philosophy and in the foundation of literature. And these writers, we have lot of. Number one, for a few I have mentioned, there are lot of. One is Plato, that is known as in Urdu language Aflatun, Socrates, that is known in our language as Socrates, Aristotle, that is known as in our language as Arastu. And actually I know students, you know Plato, Socrates and Aristotle. And after that we have Aeschylus. Okay, the word will be read as Aeschylus. And then Sophocles. And even Sophocles drama you have to study in your MA English part 1, right? Remember this point. This was a Greek drama, and this drama was written about 2300 from this time. 300 or the 400 BC. Okay, 400 BC I think so is the time of that writer whose name is Sophocles. And after that, the 5th century, 499 to 400 BCE, this 5th century before Christ, is the golden age of the Greeks Athens. Means at that time Athens, city of Athens, no doubt that was at that time that was the capital city of Greeks. Athens was the city of knowledge, that was the city of philosophers, that was the city of poets, that was the city of drama. And students, remember one point: at that time the main artistic work, main literary work was only and only poetry. And remember one point: drama is also the part of poetry, drama is also a type of poetry. Remember this point: poetry is as old as the mankind on this earth, and poetry was the first literary genre, first literary type, and the drama is also a type of poetry. Remember this point, this is very important point. And Athens was the center of all literary activities in 5th century BCE. Poetry, drama, architecture, philosophy. Remember Aristotle, Plato, Socrates, all were the philosophers. And even remember this thing: Olympic Games that were occurring, that were conducted every 4 years, after 4 years. Remember this thing: after with the time period of 4 years, after every 4 years Olympics games were means conducted. Greeks, they were, by leaving all activities, by leaving their all activities, they were preparing, they were being ready for the games. And remember this thing: drama was also presented there. One writer was allowed to present 3 tragedies. How much? 3 tragedies and 1 comedy. And remember this thing: the drama that is offered to you in English literature, that was of Sophocles, that is Oedipus Rex, that was the award winning drama of Olympic game of that particular time period. Remember, at this point you have to keep in mind. Anyways, further detail your relevant teacher will provide you, inshallah. And that time, after that, like 356 BC to 323 BC, you can see that this was a time of military expeditions by Alexander the Great, who was a student of great Greek philosopher whose name is Aristotle. Aristotle and he was the student of Alexander the Great, was a student of Aristotle. And instead of being a philosopher, writer, he became a military, he became the Greek king, and then he started military expedition. And this was the this was the end of Greek classical age. After that, Greek cannot produce writers, poet, dramatists, architecture, everything finished. That's why world knows Greeks with the name of these Greek philosophers, playwrights, and the poets. Okay, and now this is the time of Romans. Classical Roman age is 200 BC to 455 CE. Its time period is 650 years almost. Roman conquered. Why Greeks finished? Roman conquered Greece in 146 CE. And Roman writers include Ovid, Horace, and Virgil. Remember this poet as well. As this poet in the history of world, history of literature, is as equal as the Roman poet Homer. He wrote 2 epics, complete epics. And remember one point that is very interesting: when he was writing epics, epic means epic poem. So, Homer was blind when he was writing these 2 poems. And after that, there was just the Virgil. Virgil is the name of Roman poet who wrote epic, and the name of that epic I have not mentioned it, but the name of that epic was Aeneid, Annied. I think so. This is the name, if I'm not doing mistake. No, I'm sure this is. After that, there is patristic age, 700 CE to 450 CE. Actually, in this age is the beginning of. Remember this point. This age is the beginning of once again shift from Roman to the British, Roman to the Britons. See, I'm repeating. First of all, Greeks started it, right? And after Greeks, Roman came. When the Rome conquered Greece, then the Roman writers dominated all the Greek writers. And among the Romans, Virgil is the famous and the well-known writer, epic poet. And after that, the next age is Patrastic age. Patrastic age, that is from 707 CE to 450 CE. In this age, the remarkable work was the Saint Jerome first compiled the Bible. Before it, the Bible was not composed, and you will see that different dramas you will find the reference of Jerome, Gerome, Jerome. ठीक है? Okay, so this you have to read. This name should be in your knowledge. He composed the first Bible, and before it, the Bible was not in the book form. The people have just the few scriptures, 5 scriptures I have, 1 chapter you have, and after that it has been collected by the Saint Jerome, and this was a remarkable work. And after that, number 2 point, that is the Christianity spread across the Europe. After that, the whole Europe embraced in Christianity. And number 3, barbarians, uncivilized Greeks. Actually, they were not Greeks. Book says they were Greeks, but they were the people of modern day Poland, Holland. There they were spreaded, and they invaded, they attacked Rome. They attacked Rome in 410 CE, and the city finally fell them completely to 455 with the demise of Rome. You can see that Rome did work on Christianity. Rome worked on Christianity. The word is Christianity, and American accent, in American accent the word is Christianity. Remember this one. British will read this word with T sound, with Ta sound, and American read this word with the Cha sound. But it is up to you how you want to read, not a big problem. And you can see that in the Roman age there was not too much literary work except the few famous writers, but Roman works on the Christianity. That's why, remember this one, the religion Christianity was controlled by the Rome, and even still it is controlled in the Rome, even in the modern days as well as. Okay, this is the very important age. From this age, the history of English literature is starting. Please, the second age is medieval age. Its duration is 455 to 1485 CE. Actually, after the demise of Greeks, Roman emerged, and after the Roman demise, there is emergence of Britons, and this is the medieval age. In medieval age, the old English, no doubt, Anglo-Saxon. The English is the language of Anglo-Saxon tribes. Angels is one, and the Saxons is the second tribe. Both invaded in England, and they displaced the actual people of England, who were the Celts. And nowadays the Celts are living in Scotland, Celts are living in Wales, Celts are living in Ireland, and England has been invaded by the invaders, who were the people of Angles and Saxons. Both were the tribes, and that term is known as Anglo-Saxon, and their language was English language. Remember this point. With their advent, English language introduced in Britons, and after that it was started to develop, and this time period is also known as, in the history of English literature, from here history of English literature starts. Here it is known as Dark Ages. Okay, after the Rome fell, the barbarian tribes who attacked on the Rome, they were Franks, Goths, and the many others, entered and settled in Europe. After that they entered in Europe, and they settled in the different European countries. Angles and Saxons are the name of both tribes, and combined it is known as Anglo-Saxon, right? And nowadays it is written as with A, but in Old English it is also written with E, from where the E and G of English language has been developed. Okay, Anglo-Saxons migrated to Britain, displacing the native Celts of Scotland, Ireland, and the Wales. This I have already explained. At that time, just a few poems like Beowulf and Wanderer and the Seafarer, these are the famous poems of that particular time. And after that, there was this was the time when Renaissance emerged in Europe. This point is very important. What is the meaning of the word Renaissance? It means revival, it means rebirth. Actually, this was the time when the Britons were in Dark Age. Remember this point, students. when the British were in dark age, this was the time when Renaissance was emerged, not in Britain, in Europe. Europe, especially in Italy and in France. At that time there was no Rome, there was no, even there was new countries with the new names. They started to revive the literature. Which literature? Greek classical literature. Which one? Greek classical literature. See, this one. This one was revived in that time in the whole Europe. When the Britain was in the dark ages. That time Europe has started, European countries have started to reach the Greek literature, Greek and the Roman literature. And after that, why it is called Renaissance? Renaissance means rebirth or the revival. It was called the revival of Greek and the Roman literature because the people started to translate Greek literature, and after translation they have started to modify literature with their own names, and in this way Greeks were being introduced in the whole Europe. Greek literature was introduced in the whole Europe. And after that there is the Middle Age from 1006 to 1450 CE. In 1066, Norman French armies invaded and end the Anglo-Saxon hierarchy. Norman French means the different tribes, their army from the modern day France, they invaded in England, and after reaching there, they finished the government of Anglo-Saxon tribes who were ruling there for more than many hundred years, and they introduced French literature in Britain. They started to introduce French literature in Britain. See, before introducing French literature, remember this point, I have clear one thing. Before the French invasion in Britain, before the advent of French military in Britain, before the occupation of French military in Britain, revival of the Greek literature, rewriting of the Greek literature, rebirth of the Greek literature was started in the whole European countries, leading European countries, and France was one of them at that time. And when France invaded in England, modern day England, at that time it was known as Britain, they introduced definitely French literature, and French literature was under the heavy print of Greek classical literature. In this way, Greek literature entered in the English language of Britons. And now this is again the fourth shift. First shift from Greek to Roman. The second is from Roman to the European countries, and from European countries from France to England. This is the third shift of the Greek literature in the history of Britain. And up till from this time period of medieval age, this period is marked by the Middle English writings. And remember this thing, this time period, this age has the renowned writers in the history of English literature, and the renowned writer was Geoffrey Chaucer. Geoffrey Chaucer, and his book Prologue to the Canterbury Tales, or book Prologues to the Canterbury Tales, is the part of your MA English syllabus. Okay? This is the part of your poetry, and you will be taught this in part 1. And the William Langland, both are the very famous writers of medieval age. And remember this thing, students, at this time there was just the poetry in the history of English literature. This is the beginning of English literature, right? And in start there was just the poet, and the drama was just a few writers. They were writing the raw form, moral or the morality plays. In that form they were writing the dramas. That was not the pure form of drama as it was given by the Greeks. And Geoffrey Chaucer is also known as the father of modern English poetry. Remember this thing. He was the first admitted poet. No doubt that there were a lot of poets, but he was the first poet who tried to expand English language, right, by adding the Latin, Roman and the Greek words in English language. And you will see that when you will read his book, the English language used by Geoffrey Chaucer is entirely different as compared to the English used by you people nowadays. Anyways, the second was William Langland. And okay, other writers include Italian and the French authors like Boccaccio, This word is not Boccaccio and like that. No, the word is Boccaccio. That is the Roman word. Petrarch and Dante. All three are Italian philosophers and poet. Number three is the Renaissance or the Reformation age. Student, this age is very important. This is the golden period of English literature. As we have discussed, the golden period of Greek literature, that was the classical age, 1200 BC to 400 BC. Remember, in the start of discussion, this age literature was the rich. This was the golden period in the history of Britons. And remember this point, student. In this time, in this period, Britons discovered lot of new lands in the world. America was discovered, Australia was discovered, Africa was discovered, India was discovered. Sea exploration were at peak, and you will see lot of references of sea exploration in the works of different writers, as well as writer of this time as well as. And this time period is the golden period of the English literature. This is the golden period of English literature, and this is divided into different sections. Number one is early Tudor age, 1485 to 1558 CE, and this age, name of this age is on the name of British, the King of Britain. His name was Henry Tudor, and it is also he ruled with the name of Henry the Seventh. Henry the Seventh, claiming the throne. And at this time, what happens? A great shift has been happened, and this conflict you will see in the works of John Milton, and even in the works of, especially in the works of John Milton and other poets of this time as well as. But we have to discuss John Milton, and we shall see this political conflict even in the work of John Milton. That's why we say literature is reflection of society. Literature without reflection of society, students remember this thing, कुछ भी नहीं होता. Okay, in the time period of Henry the Seventh, the remarkable work was the Martin Luther's Split from the Rome. Split from the Rome means split from the Roman Church. Right now, the Christianity is controlled by the Rome in the city of Rome, right? And at the same time, it was controlled by the Rome as well as. There was a great rift between England and the Rome. And what was its results? Marks the emergence of Protestantism. It made a new sect in Christianity that was known as Protestants, followed by the Henry the Eighth. After that, there was the rule of Henry the Eighth. Anglicans schism means rift, gap, which created the first Protestant church in England. And actually at this time, the England church that was controlled by the Rome before has been shifted, has been made new, and the name of that church was Protestant Church in England. Edmund Spenser is the sample poet of the time. He is very famous poet. Edmund Spenser is the poet of that particular time, and he wrote epic that is with the name of Fairy Queen. That is not the part of your syllabus right now. Okay, after that, in Renaissance age, there was Elizabethan age. That is, the name is on the base of British Queen, whose name was Elizabeth the First. Elizabeth I is also said to Elizabeth. And when the occupied Indian was liberated by the Great Britain, at that time the ruling queen was Elizabeth II. Elizabeth II was ruling at that time. Queen Elizabeth saved England from the Spanish invasion. It means that was also the time of wars. And that's why you will see the writers, their works of that time, there will be lot of references of the wars. Her reign marked by the clearly work of Shakespeare and the Marlowe. Both are the well-known writers, and both are the parts of your part 1 drama. Both were the dramatists, William Shakespeare and Christopher Marlowe. And Marlowe is the father of English drama, modern English drama. And even that's why it is said, if there is no Marlowe, there is no Shakespeare. Means Marlowe was the founding father of English drama, modern English drama. And after that there was the Jacobean age, that was from 1603 to 1625. And in this period, in this time, in this time there were the different poets, including Ben Jonson and the well-known poet that is John Donne. He is also the part of our syllabus, our subject that we have to discuss later, John Donne. And after that there is the next age that is known as Caroline age. Caroline age, that was from 1625 to 1649. And the John Milton is the renowned poet of that age. Who is the renowned poet? John Milton. Both John Donne, he is of Jacobean, and the John Milton is belong to the Caroline age, and both Caroline age and the Jacobean age is known as Renaissance age. And after that there is the Commonwealth or the Puritan age from 1649 to 1660 under the Cromwell's Puritan dictatorship. Actually, at this time, England was the kingship of Britain was snatched, and there was a dictator, and dictator was ruling, and the John Milton continued to write, but he was but also find like Andrew Marvell and the Thomas Brown, they are also the writers. See, we can say that John Milton, John Donne, Thomas Brown, Andrew Marvell, they are also known as contemporary. Contemporary is also a term used in literature, means they were all in the same time, they were all present and working at the same time, right? That's why they are known as contemporary, means of that time. After that, the fourth age in English literature, that is Neoclassical or Enlightenment age from 1660 to 790. Neoclassical age. Neoclassical refers to the increased influence of the classical literature upon these cultures. Actually, it is all about, once again, in this time period, the classical literature and its influence was very common in the writings of English writers of that particular time. And after that, there was the Restoration age from 1660 to 1700. This actually, why it is called Restoration age? Because see the line, see this line. Oh, sorry, this one. Under the Cromwell's Puritan dictatorship, actually, in this time, from 1649 to from 1660, England was ruled by a dictator. Kingship was finished. Kingship was replaced by the dictatorship, and later, with the passage of time, in this time period, British king was restored. Means dictatorship was finished and kingship was restored. And up till now there is kingship. After a long period of Puritan domination, and after that the Puritanism, the Puritan sect who placed new church in England has been finished. And after that there is another age, that is with the name of Augustan age, that was by the name of King Augustus from 1700 to 1750. English writer includes of that time Jonathan Swift, that is also the part of your part 1 syllabus, prose writer, and Alexander Pope, whose poem Rape of the Lock you have to study in the part 1, right? From this you can see that how important these writers were, right? Still their piece of works are taught to you in your MA English. And okay. Okay, then the next part of neoclassical age, that is the Augustan age. In Augustan age, the famous writers are Swift, complete name is Jonathan Swift, Alexander Pope, and both are included in your in the syllabus of your part 1. Remember this point. Alexander Pope wrote Rape of the Lock, that is a short epic poem, and Jonathan Swift wrote Gulliver's Travels, right, in which there is a man with the gigantic culture, whatever it is, just introduction of the name is sufficient. And then there is the next age, that is age of Johnson from 1750 to 1790. This is not too important age, but I have just added for the formality. Actually, in this age there was again a shift of themes, shift of thoughts. And remember why it is called neoclassical age. Actually, in this age, standards were of Greek classical age, but with the new way, with the new method, they were used. In Renaissance age, the Greek standards were mostly used as it is without with a little change. But in neoclassical age, Greek standards were used, but the themes and the contents were different, that have been changed by the writers of that time. That's why it is called neoclassical. Neo is the Greek word, that is, you can say, Greek word means new, new, in easy words. And in age of Johnson was the start of romanticism. Age of Johnson was a shift, was transition toward upcoming romanticism. Actually, romanticism is a movement. Romanticism is a movement that was imported to the English literature by the writers of that particular time, definitely of age of Johnson, writers of age of Johnson's. And actually, romantics means writers of romantics. Romantics means writers of romantic age. They were mostly writing on nature and natural phenomena, supernatural machinery, etc. And even sometime the dark romanticism that was full of terror, horrible themes, as you can see nowadays in the war or in the horror movies, especially. And then the romantic period starts from 1790 to 1830 CE. Romantic poet wrote about the nature and imagination. Remember this thing. This is the hallmark of that particular time period, that particular writings. They are writing about nature and imagination. Some romantics. Romantics means romantic poets. Actually, that is a French word. We are calling story. French says romance, right? They are not saying story. They are saying romance, in which we are writing about nature, imagination, and imaginary stories like that. Include Coleridge. S.T. Coleridge is the full name. He is also known as lake poet, and these words should be in your memory every time. Who is the lake poet? Coleridge is lake poet. William Wordsworth is lake poet, right? Remember this point. Then William Blake, John Keats, P.B. Shelley in Britain. All are well-known poets of romantic age. And remember this thing: English poetry is never ever, it is not completed without romantic poetry. And all these writers, remember this thing: S.T. Coleridge, Blake, Keats, Shelley, all are the part of your part 2 poetry of part 2, right? And all are included in your syllabus for the part 2. And then there was one famous novelist of English literature, and her name is Jane Austen. Also wrote at this time. She was also writing at this time. Remember this thing: in romantic age there was only and only poetry. Was the main used literary work. And meanwhile John Austen was there, and she was writing. She was a novelist. And her famous novel is Jane Austen's famous novel is Pride and Prejudice, Emma. And on the Pride and Prejudice there is a movie, I think so, Indian movie or Hollywood movie, Bride and Prejudice, right? That was on the base of Jane Austen's romantic novel. And like that. And here novels are entering in English literature. Here novels are being introduced. Complete novels have been introduced in English literature in romantic age. And after that, and before it, there was no novels in English literature. This point I have missed, I am repeating. In Renaissance age, there was only and only poetry, drama and prose. There was just 3 types of literature. There were just 3 literary genres. One was poetry, drama and prose. All these 3 were at peak, at its boom in Renaissance age. Remember this point. There was no novel at all. Just story writing, and this was the basic concept of novels were continued, but complete novels were introduced in romantic age. and Jane Austen is one of them. And after that there were the Gothic writers. Actually, Gothic writers were very different in their writings. Actually, they wrote in dark romanticism. Dark romanticism means they were writing stories and they were producing literature that was full of terror, horror, supernatural elements. Supernatural elements means in which ghosts are there, spirits, holy spirits, evil spirits, right, or shades. All are the parts of supernatural elements. And after that there was the Victorian period in 19th century, and in Victorian period there was the novel writing was at its peak, right. In Victorian period novel writings were at its peak. There was no drama in remarkably, and we cannot find even remarkable dramatists, playwrights in Victorian age. There was no remarkable poets in Victorian age, because the Victorian age was the age of novels. In that particular age, lot of writers were writing novels by leaving poetry and drama. As you can see that in Romantic age, remarkable writers were just the poets. No one was preferring to read drama. No one was preferring to read poetry. All people were, sorry, I am saying poetry. The main preference, the main literary devices, writings were only and only poetry in Romantic period, and the rest of the poetic genres were a little bit, and were not remarkably produced at that time. And in Victorian age, the novels were at its peak. Maximum novel writers were there. They were keep on writing novels, and the famous novelists are here mentioned. Lot of I have mentioned, but the few I will mention. One is Robert Browning, and the second is Charles Dickens. And Charles Dickens' famous novel, The Tale of Two Cities, will be offered to you, I think so, in part 1's novel subject. I think so. If not in semester 1, then it will be in semester 2. Okay. Then the 7th age of literature is modern period. In Britain, the modernist writers include W.B. Actually, this is, I think so, Y.B. I think so. Y.B. Yeats. Y.B. Yeats, Seamus Heaney, Virginia Woolf, and all these modern poets are included in your part 2's in the poetry of part 2. Remember this point as well as. Then the 8th and the last age of literature, even you can say of English literature, that is postmodern period. That is from 1945, at the end of Second World War, from the end of Second World War to onward. T.S. Eliot, Morrison, Shaw. This word you will not read as Shaw. Actually, the word is G.B. Shaw, Beckett, and other modern writers, poets, and the playwrights. All these writers mentioned here, poets, novelists, dramatists, all are included your part 2 syllabus, right? Their works are introduced to you in your part 2 syllabus. Remember this point. This is the end of literary ages, and thank you. Next, our topic is epic poetry, right? Epic poetry is no doubt, epic poetry is a long narrative poem, and history of epic poetry is very old. In past, the people were telling oral epics with spoken words, by telling stories, by telling different verses and like that. But actual form of epic poetry that was introduced 2000 BCE, 2000 AD, means 4020 years old. Before 4020 years, and later it was introduced by the famous epic poet whose name was Homer. And Homer's name we have discussed in the Greek classical literature, in the discussion of Greek classical literature, Homer. And on the base of Homer's two epic poems, number 1, Iliad and Odyssey, on the base of these two epic poems of Homer, Hollywood made a lot of movies. And few movies name I have mentioned at that time. One was Troy, Helen of Sparta, all are related to that particular epic poems. And remember one thing, these epic poems of Homer were written in the background of Trojan War, the war between the state of Troy and Greece. And this war was more than 10 years. Was this war continued for more than 10 years. And after a long siege, the Greece destroyed the city of the famous and the well-known city of Troy, right? And when after this war, there was lot of bold events. This war produced lot of brave soldiers, heroes in the history of Greeks. And people were admiring their deeds, their expeditions, their military expeditions, their deeds in the war, their techniques, their way of fighting. And the poet of that time, in Greek classical age, poet of that time, especially who? Homer, wrote on the events of Trojan War. And what he wrote? He wrote two epics. One is known as Iliad and the second is known as Odyssey. And in both poems, he described in details, very details, by providing long details. He provided the history of Trojan War. And remember one thing, Trojan War, according to historians, said that it occurred, it ensued about 1200 BC. And Homer was writing his poems after 400 after 400s of that war. Means not at that time, after 400s of that time, by listening the events from the people, from his ancestors, from oral epics and etc. Anyways, this was the background of the first introduced epic poem in the history of world. And this epic poems by Homer are the role model still for the writers. And remember one thing more that is very interesting, to write epic poetry is not an easy work. For this sake, there should be the writer's mental level that should be very wide, and his knowledge of language, everything should be very vast. Now move to the slide. Epic poetry. An epic poem is a long narrative poem that is usually about heroic deeds and events. Heroic deeds means heroic deeds of soldiers in wars, right? And events of wars that are significant to the culture of the poet, that are linked, that are very important for the culture of that poet. Which poet? Who is writing epic. Many ancient writers used epic poetry to tell tales of intense adventures and the heroic feats. So there are a lot of writers who wrote epic poetry, and in which they were telling us intense adventures, events, expeditions, military expeditions of the soldiers, of their heroes whom they were admiring, right? One thing you have to see nowadays, even for all nations, they have lot of heroes from their armies, current day armies, their army chief, army generals, and the people have strong affiliation with them. And the same was the case in that time. The people have strong affiliation with their heroes, and those heroes were going to win the wars, right, for the sake of their countries. That's why those heroes were very popular at that time. As well as some of the most famous literary masterpieces in the world were written in the form of epic poetry. Etymology means origin of the word, means from where epic word has been derived. The English word epic comes from the Latin epicus, which itself comes from the ancient Greek adjective epikos. Word means story poem. We can say that epic poem is a poem that is with a story, and the story will not be like the Thirsty Crow or a Happy Prince, and like that means that is too short. No, the story will be on the base of some war. Remember this point. The story will be on the base of some war, and remember this thing, in every epic poem of the world, you will see that there is a war, and there are the heroes in war, there are the supernatural machinery in the war, and writers who is writing epic poem will write in the background in the context of that war. War is must in epic poem, and sometimes epic is also taken as an alternate of war. Composition and convention. In his work Poetics, Aristotle, see, Aristotle का नाम there is the name of Aristotle, see, that we have discussed. In his work Poetics, Aristotle defines an epic as one of the form of poetry contrasted with the lyric poetry, with drama in the form of tragedy and comedy. And remember this thing, Aristotle described the epic poetry in his book Poetics. That is the part of your part 2 syllabus, the Poetics. There you will study this book. And in this book he has compared epic poetry with lyric poetry and with drama, that is tragedy and the comedy. Already I have mentioned one thing, poetry and the drama is also the subtype of poetry. That's why Aristotle has compared poetry and the drama with each other. Lyric poetry means the poetry that is versified, that is composed to be sung, that is for singing purpose. Remember this thing. And the events of epic poetry, mostly the people were singing here and there in in different celebration events, festivals. This was a common trend of the past and even of ancient time. In a handbook to literature in 1999, Harman defines an epic, a long narrative poem. They are giving, both writers are giving definition of the epic poem. They are saying long narrative poem in elevated style, presenting characters of high position, in adventures forming an organic whole. Remember this thing. Elevated style means the style of epic poem is not too simple and plain. It is highly complicated and lofty as well as elevated. That's why it is called. Means poet has to work on the style as well as. And then the high position, characters are of high position, mean there will be the characters like king, queen, gods, angels, high rank people, minister, right, army chief, war heroes are the character of an epic. Adventures from organic whole. An organic whole is a term given by Aristotle in Poetics. And organic whole means there they have to work as a single unit. Means they have to work with each others through their relation to the central heroic figure. Means everything, elevated style, high ranked positions, characters, they will work together, and all these things, all the elements, characters of that particular poem will be linked with the central heroic figure. Means they will have the strong connection with the hero of that particular poem. Same like drama, novel and story, epic poem has a hero as well as heroes as well as sometime one main hero, and there will be the lot of other heroes, minor heroes. And through their development of the episode important to the history of a nation or a race. It means in epic further there will be important history of a particular nation or a race will be presented. See, when we are talking about Homer's Iliad and Odyssey, we can see that there is a history of Greek nation, Greece, their warriors, right, and how their gods were helping them in the war, etc. And all the detail are the part of that one. Main characters of the epic poem. This point is very important, students. Please concentrate. Number one is it begins in medias res. Medias res is a term given by Aristotle. Means epic poem will start from the middle. It will not from the beginning. It will start from the middle, and the rest of the ideas, starting concepts will come by using the flashback techniques, will come step by step at the end. The settings is vast, covering many nations, the world or the universe. Means characters, setting of an epic poem will not be limited, will not be narrow, it will be very vast. In this epic poems you will see that, students, characters are moving from one world to another world. They are going from earth to skies. They are going from earth to other areas, underworld. Angels are coming from the top skies, heavens, etc. So that's why it is called setting is vast, covering many nations. Heroes are traveling from one country to another country, one continent to another country, and even sometimes they are traveling from one world to another world. That's why it is called its setting will be very vast. Number two begins with invocation to the muse. That is very important point. That is also known as epic invocation. In the start, writer will invoke. Writer will seek the help of God, according to their religion. Greeks, they were seeking the help of gods, and John Milton, you will see that he is seeking the help of muse. Muse means real God, Lord. That is called epic invocation. Number 4 is begin with the statement of the theme, means theme of the epic will be explained in the start. Number 5 include the use of epithets. Epithets means titles, nicknames of the characters. Means, for example, John Milton is using the nickname of the of Lucifer, and Lucifer's nickname is Satan. The most commonly in our language, that is also known as Shaitan, and even it has further names, title and nicknames, and further titles and the nicknames of other characters as well as are used. Contains long list called epic catalog. And in this it is also known as Nomi ratio, and it means there will be lot of list of different events, different character, different objects, different images. Images means just for example tree, hills, mountains, ice, and the many other things. There will be the long list and the long detail of different objects, different images, and images are the pictures that poets are using in their poetry. For example, in different poems you are discussing that in BA the first poem leisure, there are the lot of images like cow, grazing, grass, right? All are the images that are to give strength to, that are used to give strength to the poem. The same is here, but here list will be too long. Lot of many hundred thousand images will be there. Features long and the formal speeches. There will be lot of speeches of heroes, main characters, villain, heroes. Time and again they will come in front of audience, in front of their crew, in front of their soldier, in front of their team, and they will deliver speeches. Shows divine intervention. Mean God will interfere. Supernatural machinery, devils, angels, ranked angel, they will interfere, they will help hero, they will help villain, etc. Okay, we were discussing the number 7 number feature of an epic poem, that is features long and the formal speeches. Means there will be lot of speeches of different main characters, not the minor characters, major characters, heroes, his companions, sometimes speeches of gods, goddesses, angels, devils, Saturn himself, right, are the main character if human characters are there. And number 8 shows divine intervention in human affairs. Divine means related to the God, right? According to Greeks, there is no Allah. Definitely they are follower of the gods. Small God, God means gods and goddesses whom they were worshipping, and they are at the time of distress. You will see that their gods will come, they will help them, they will motivate them, they will interfere in the human affairs. And same time, different gods, different Saturns, they will try to assist the villain and the left side of the characters. They will help them, they will support them, they will motivate them. And the number 9 features heroes that embody the value of civilization. All the heroes, whosoever is the hero, hero will display the civilization, values, tradition of the nation to whom he or she is representing. They will exhibit their qualities, their traditions, customs, norms, values, interest, trends, etc. And number 10 is often features the tragic hero's descent into the underworld or hell. There you will see that time and again heroes will travel to the underworld. Underworld or the hell means somewhere there the devils, their spirits, ghosts are living. They will go there, and after that, they from there they will get inspiration. From there, they will get different sources, different remedies, etc. These are the main 10 features of any epic poem of the world. Generally, I have discussed with you, right? When we shall start to read the text of John Milton's epic poem, that is The Paradise Lost, then we have to see from every line, from every word, we have to see which line, which segment is covering which feature of an epic poem. And before reading that original text, it was compulsory to discuss what are the features of characteristics of an epic poem. Anyways, this was compulsory for you, that I have discussed with you. And now move to the last. This information is just for the sake of your interest. This will be read by you. And here I have mentioned the names of different famous epics. And you have to read it by yourself. And I have to mention the famous and the well-known epics in the world. And I am sure you have heard the names before. Number 1, here is at the number 4, very famous Mahabharata, that is called in Hindi language as Mahabharat, right? And where is the GR? Okay, see, when it has been written, 350 BCE. 350 BC means 220 years of our time, and 350 total, it will be 2370. Means it has been written 2370 years before our life. 2370 years before this day, it has been written in India. And second is very famous in Persian culture, that is by Firdausi. And in English language, we shall call him as Firdausi, right? Firdausi. Yes, it's right accent. And the name of that epic poem was Shahnama, and it was written in 11th century. 11th century means 900 before this day, about 920 years before this day. And GR for you, I am explaining these dates so you can understand. And
Okay,
after
sir.
that, the famous is written by number 13, that is written by Dante. He was Italian poet, and his epic was Divine Comedy. And that is very interesting, and it is highly complicated, and even I did not get it easily. And it has been written in 1308 and 1321 is in this situation it has been written. And it has been written in AD, means about 700 years back. Then the very famous in English literature is one more, that is Edmund Spenser's The Fairy Queen. And after that, Epic of Manners. No. Okay, that's all. These are the epics that I have mentioned, and here in black color, mentioned in black color, are very important, and these are directly linked with English literature. See, number 2, number 1, it is too old, leave it. Number 2, Homeric poems. Number 1 is the Iliad. Number 2, the Homeric poem once again, Odyssey. See, the time of writing, 800 BC. 800 BC means GR 2820 years ago. 2820 years ago. I am repeating,
Okay.
800 before Christ and 220 after Christ. Total 2820.
Yes.
And then number 5, Italian poet Virgil. He wrote an Aeneid in 19 BC. Where? In 19 BC. Here I think so I have done some mistake. 19 BC. Here I have missed. Anyways, I will make it. I will correct it. And then number 16, John Milton's Paradise Lost. That is the part of our syllabus that we have to discuss. Hopefully in the next lecture, whenever it will be. And then 17 number, that is Alexander Pope is the name of poet, and his epic is The Rape of the Lock. And remember this thing, student, this is the mock epic. This is mock epic. This is not a complete epic. This is mock epic. And the teacher who will teach you will discuss what is the meaning of mock epic. If you will say me, I can also explain for you for your information. Okay students, thank you very much. This is the end of our discussion, and after that I will take your questions, whatever it will be. Thank you.